Let's now cross to KZN. Sheffield Beach, or near Sheffield Beach, is where we find investigator specialist Mike Bolhuis, who's been very, very helpful in these last few weeks as everybody just tried to come to terms with the fugitive mind that we'd been dealing with in trying to track down Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipa, as she's now called. Mike, thank you so much for your time. So I don't know how much of that briefing you were able to take in, but that last clip there, the Minister of the Police, it sounded like he wanted to make it very clear that this arrest of Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipa happened as a result of information and work that was being done from the South African side with their counterparts in Tanzania. From what you've understood about how Thabo Bester and Nandipa might have moved from South Africa to where they were found just 10 km from the border, did this fit in with what you had figured out in your mind was what they were going to try and do to get away?
Yes, there were several scenarios that we have exposed, and this is one of them. I'm actually elated that he is caught so quickly, but this just shows, and we must give thanks to the media, you guys, all the other media keeping this hot, the projects that went out, other security companies being involved, obviously the top-notch police as well, and we praise them for their brilliant work. Remember, there was also cybercrime units involved. And a lot of information, a lot of police units were given information and worked together for a change. And it just shows you that if South Africa, the government and the public and the authorities work together and give each other a chance, look how quickly this man was arrested. This is because of information. And I believe, spoken to senior policemen earlier on by my investigators, that they have been looking at Tanzania for at least the last 2 weeks. And have been concentrating not only on that, but in South Africa and around South Africa as well, but eventually struck gold, and Interpol and the SAPS and the authorities from Tanzania worked together, and they were arrested as illegal immigrants or as illegals in the country.
We're told, we understand that they were in possession of multiple passports. Can you give us some insight into just how they would have made this trip? How easy or how difficult would it have been for them, even though they were in the possession of multiple passports, to move from here in Johannesburg all the way to where they were found, just on the other side of the Kenyan border with Tanzania?
Because our country is so crippled with corruption everywhere, hopefully this case, which is egg on our country's face, will stir up the authorities to make sure that crime is dealt with on a zero-tolerance basis and deal with corruption everywhere, and especially at the borders. It's very easy to go through the borders, very, very easy. If you've got money and connections, you can go anywhere. It's very easy to get a phone. It's very easy everywhere. If you want to move anywhere and you've got the finances. So I have said from the beginning they would have escape routes, and it's our opinion they would have moved on and on. But fortunately, they were caught before they moved into Kenya.
In your opinion, if they were able to cross over the border, we believe they were just 10 km away from it, what might have happened from there?
Well, the possibility still, because of the media outcry, and once again, I must say the media did a good job. They constantly gave information out, and the newest and the latest, which has an advantage and a disadvantage because they watch the media as well. But on the other hand, you know, when you're on the run and your life is literally in danger, and you know you can be caught at any moment, you do make mistakes. I am sure that in Kenya, the same thing might have happened, and from there on, whichever country they would go to, the authorities would have eventually caught up with them. You can only, we've seen it with so many of these cases, you can only run so far and for so long. Eventually it catches up with you.
Mike, in your opinion, I mean, Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipa are two so-called fugitives that we knew about. And like you said, they captured the imagination of the local media. And of course, it uncovered lots of shortcomings in our correctional services sector as well. Are there other so-called Thabo Besters out there that are escaping every day of the week and we just don't know about them?
Well, this is a concern, this case, because it just shows, and it has shown before, we've seen many escapes, but not a heinous crime like this one and a brilliant crime like this one, if I may use the word, committed by Thabo and his cohorts. Also taking consideration, the minister and the authorities now bringing him back must be very careful to keep him safe, because there's a lot of people that is after him, because he has to now expose who is all his connections, getting him out of prison, all the inmates involved, DCS involved, GS4 involved. This was a this is a series, this is a movie breakout. So he has information that puts his life in extreme danger. And I would beg the authorities to be very, very careful that it's not influenced, because that's another thing that we all are very concerned about, is this last year how very important information, crucial information was suppressed the whole time with a form of enforcement and intimidation. And hopefully Thabo will give it all, spill the beans, be the whistleblower, as well as Nandipa, knowing that their lives won't be in danger. That's one of my biggest concerns, that everything will come out so that the authorities can deal with all the corruption, and that will stop maybe the future prison breaks. But this prison break, if it goes unpunished and unchecked and not sorted, I can tell you now, it will create future prison breaks.
Mike, if you look at the way Thabo Bester was able to orchestrate this breakout and then move around and operate around until the spotlight was put on his story, firstly, do you believe that he would have been caught if the story didn't leak out into the media and capture the imagination of South Africans like it did, A? And B, do you think that, like you said, if you have the right amount of money, you can do anything? Do you think that the people implicated here are quite high level? Or would somebody like him have been able to move the way he did with just low level contacts?
Yes, first of all, even some of the police we dealt with has said to me, I can say thank you from their side. We must break that barrier between the authorities and the media. It would be much better if the authorities speak openly with the media on a constant basis, because the media did make an extreme difference here. Secondly, he moved around. Thabo moved around because he had protection. He planned everything from the inside with a group of people. This was a massive operation. A lot of people involved, a lot of money, and the crime can only actually flourish when there's an authority involved. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So the authorities were involved there as well. So a lot of policemen, DCS and GS4 and those in the prison system will be exposed in this situation. But they also planned their escape outside. In other words, once they were outside, I mean, they've had cars at places, they stayed at places, they had money and connections, and they were constantly a step ahead of the authorities. And it just happened so fast now with all this media coverage and everybody getting involved and putting the chase on. I think money became a big problem, and they decided, making the mistake. If I were them, I would have stayed in South Africa because they had connections and protection here, but they went over. And I think that's the final nail in the coffin that got them caught, is because they went to Tanzania.
Just one final question, Mike. Do you believe that the Thabo Bester story will be the straw that broke the camel's back, and it will unearth a lot of what we perhaps didn't know is wrong and broken within our correctional services system and all of the other departments that they're connected with?
I would urge the authorities, the heads of police, to get out of their chairs and go and do a walk in the prisons. It is hell on earth. Let me tell you, there is so much corruption in the prison systems. It is shocking. You just cannot fathom it. There are so many extortionists, sextortionists, cybercrime criminals in prison, so many gangs and cliques operating from inside in prison. There's so much money laundering, money gangsterisms and stuff being arranged from inside prison to the outside. It does not mean if you put these criminals behind bar that they stop with their crimes that they commit. They carry on with gangs inside in the prison with those on the outside. So the prison system is horrific. You get nothing there without paying. And I mean, you have to pay a guard $20, otherwise you won't get a blanket. If you don't pay, you don't have any form of facilities in prison. So the prison system, together with the policing system, is a very corrupt system. And I hope the heads of police, once and for all, do something about this. And I think that's what we all want.
Do you think, I know I said final question, but now I've got a follow-up question, Mike. How much of the issue here is the fact that it seems that so much of the important work needed from the Correctional Services Department was actually farmed out and privatized to private companies like the one that's been in the headlines with regards to this story?
Look, this has been tried and done, and it just doesn't work. It's one thing if you source out something, but it's another thing which I suggest that our country works together, like we've done in this case. Everybody worked together. Everybody gets praise, and we're thankful to everybody. And there was very good communications between private security, the police, and the government. And look, this has brought this about. It can work in all our systems, but the ultimate authority is our government. The government, that's why we pay taxes. The government and the police must see eye to eye and protect us as citizens. And if they incarcerate people, they must make sure that they are looked after well, but that they cannot commit further crimes from inside. I'm telling you now, it is horrific. It is rotten to the core inside. I'm not talking about only the crime there. I'm talking about the facilities. There's no such thing as toilets. It's a hole in the ground. There's no such thing as there's no hygiene. It's very, very bad. There's no control at all. And only the government and our police should be in control of our prison systems. They should have special units that deals with those who are incarcerated, and they should have special units that deals with the criminal element on the outside. We've had that before, and once that is intact and government and authorities and the public works together, we can make this difference.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Specialist investigator Mike Bolhuis joining us and giving us of his time this afternoon there from Bolhuis in KZN. Thank you so much for those insights, as always, Mike Bolhuis.